It was the moment no Hudson and Rex fan ever expected. The heartbreaking truth about Diesel, the beloved canine star who brought Rex to life, has finally come out. For 6 long months, whispers and rumors spread across fan groups, social media, pages, and even press interviews, yet no one knew for sure what had happened. Now, the curtain has been pulled back, and the story behind Diesel's sudden absence is more emotional, more complicated, and more shocking than anyone could have guessed. This isn't just about losing a cast member, it's about how a loyal friend, a TV icon, and a piece of Hudson and Rex history left in a way that left both the cast and fans reeling from the very first episode. Diesel wasn't just another trained animal on set, he was Rex, his expressions, his perfect timing, and his bond with lead actor John Reardon made every scene come alive. Fans could feel it in every chase, every rescue, and every quiet moment between. Hudson and Rex. Diesel had a way of looking into the camera that made you believe he knew exactly what was going on. And that's why his sudden disappearance midway through Season 8 filming left so many people confused. There were no official statements, no heartfelt posts from the cast, no behind-the-scenes videos featuring him. Just silence. The mystery started with small details only the most dedicated fans noticed. In one promotional clip, Hudson was seen working with another dog who looked strikingly similar to Rex but moved a little differently. In interviews, John Reardon avoided direct questions about Diesel, choosing instead to focus on the exciting things coming up for the show. For casual viewers, these details went unnoticed. But for loyal fans who'd been following since Season 1, the absence was glaring. Social media began buzzing with theories. Had Diesel retired? Was he sick? Or had something happened that the producers didn't want to reveal yet? The truth, as we now know, was something far more heartbreaking. Diesel's final days on set were quiet, marked by fewer appearances and lighter shooting schedules. According to people close to the production, Diesel's health had started to decline, and his trainer had been working closely with the crew to adjust filming so he wouldn't be overworked. These changes were subtle, almost invisible to the audience at first, but looking back, they were clear signs that something serious was happening. The production team handled it with extreme care, avoiding any public announcements while they tried to keep the atmosphere on set positive. Behind the scenes, the cast reportedly struggled with keeping the secret. Diesel wasn't just a co-star, he was family. Crew members described moments between takes when John Reardon would sit quietly with Diesel, giving him gentle pats and whispering to him before the cameras rolled. There were also rumors that certain episodes were rewritten to limit Rex's physical scenes, using clever editing to disguise the fact that Diesel wasn't on set as often. For a show so centered on the partnership between Hudson and Rex, this was no easy task. As the filming days went on, it became harder to hide the truth. Diesel's trainer, who had been by his side since the very beginning, reportedly grew more protective, keeping him away from unnecessary noise or stress. Still, to the outside world, there was nothing but speculation. The producers knew that once the news came out, it would overshadow everything else about Season 8, and perhaps that's why they decided to hold on to the truth for as long as possible. 6 months of silence, 6 months of carefully avoiding the topic, and 6 months of preparing for the day when fans would finally know what had happened to the dog who had become a television legend. By the time the truth broke, the mystery had grown into one of the most talked about topics in the Hudson and Rex fan community. But in those early days of Diesel's absence, before any official word, the production team walked a tightrope, trying to honor his contribution, protect his privacy, and keep the show moving forward without breaking the hearts of millions of viewers all at once. And in many ways, that's where the real story begins, in those final moments on set, when everyone knew something was coming, but no one dared to say it out loud. The final days of Diesel's time on the Hudson and Rex set were filled with a strange mix of routine and quiet sorrow, the kind you only recognize in hindsight. To the untrained eye, it looked like another smooth filming period, lights, cameras, and a team of dedicated cast and crew bringing the beloved detective duo to life. But for those working closest to Diesel, every scene was weighed down by the knowledge that these moments might be among his last. There was an unspoken agreement to protect him, to make every day as comfortable and stress-free as possible, even if it meant rewriting scenes or adjusting entire shooting schedules. Normally, Diesel thrived on set. He loved the action sequences, leaping into cars, running through streets, even performing in the most intense rescue missions. But during Season 8's production, changes became noticeable to the people who had spent years by his side. His sprints became slower, his rests between takes a little longer. There were days when, instead of rehearsing a chase, Diesel would simply walk through his blocking, his trainer guiding him with gentle hand signals and quiet encouragement. The director, knowing how important it was to keep the illusion alive for the audience, worked with the camera team to capture tight shots of Diesel's expressive face, avoiding wide shots that might reveal his reduced movement. Cast members began sharing subtle, almost invisible moments with him. John Reardon, who had formed an almost uncanny bond with Diesel over the years, seemed especially affected. Between takes, he'd sit beside Diesel, gently scratching his fur or leaning down to speak to him in a low, comforting voice. No one knew exactly what he said, but the look in Diesel's eyes suggested he understood. Crew members later described these moments as bittersweet, beautiful in their closeness, but tinged with a growing sense of goodbye. Even the script began to adapt. In earlier seasons, episodes often featured Rex performing dramatic takedowns or searching wide outdoor areas. In these final days, those scenes were rewritten into slower-paced investigations or moments of quiet observation, allowing Diesel to stay involved without pushing his limits. In some episodes, a second dog, a trained double, was used for physically demanding scenes. This double, while skilled, never quite carried the same charisma Diesel brought naturally. The difference was subtle, but fans with a keen eye would eventually notice Dot behind the camera. The atmosphere shifted. The usually lively chatter during breaks became more subdued, especially when Diesel wasn't present on set. On days he was too tired to film, his absence was felt deeply. The crew, many of whom had been with the show since the first season, treated him like more than just a co-star. He was a beloved team member. For them, every wag of his tail, every alert glance, and every little bark was a reminder of the joy he had brought into their lives. His trainer played a crucial role in those last weeks. Always close by, she was vigilant about Diesel's comfort. She ensured he had shaded spots to rest, fresh water within reach, and breaks between scenes to keep him from becoming fatigued. While she remained professional, those who knew her could see the strain, the effort it took to balance her role in the show with the growing reality that her closest companion's time was coming to an end. These were also the days when the first whispers began to spread. A few background extras and guest actors, unfamiliar with the situation, asked questions when they noticed changes in Diesel's performance. Word would pass quietly among the crew, but the producers made it clear: no public discussion, no leaks, no statements. They wanted the truth to be shared on their terms, in their time, and with the respect Diesel deserved. What made these final days so powerful was the quiet dignity with which they unfolded. There were no dramatic goodbyes on set, no emotional speeches or public announcements. Instead, it was a series of small, intimate gestures, a shared glance, a careful hand on his back, a piece of chicken offered between scenes that spoke volumes. Everyone was doing their best to pretend it was just another workday, but in their hearts, they knew they were living through the closing chapter of something special. And when the last day of filming with Diesel finally came, it didn't feel like a wrap. It felt like a farewell no one was ready to face. The cameras stopped rolling, but the moment hung in the air, heavy, quiet, and unforgettable. Those present that day would later say that the hardest part wasn't saying goodbye. It was knowing. They had to keep the truth locked away for months, carrying the weight of a loss the world hadn't yet been allowed to feel. The truth finally came out in a way that caught many fans off guard. After 6 months of silence, speculation, and carefully crafted interviews that avoided the topic, the news of Diesel's passing broke, and it felt like the entire Hudson and Rex fanbase froze in collective disbelief. There was no big press conference, no flashy headline pushed by the network. Instead, the revelation came through a heartfelt, almost understated post shared on the show's official social media account, accompanied by a single, powerful image, Diesel in character as Rex, sitting proudly beside John Reardon, both looking directly into the camera. The caption was short but devastating, confirming what so many had feared and what a select few had known for months. Diesel had died peacefully, surrounded by those who loved him most. The message was clear, respectful, and deeply emotional. It spoke of Diesel's incredible career, his unmatched talent, and the joy he brought not only to the viewers but to everyone on set. The post also acknowledged the difficulty in keeping the truth private, explaining that the decision was made out of respect for Diesel's trainer and the close-knit production family, who needed time to grieve without the intense spotlight of public reaction. Within minutes, the comment section flooded with thousands of messages from fans around the world, from heartfelt condolences to personal stories about how Rex had become part of their lives. The timing of the announcement wasn't random. Those close to the production later admitted that the reveal was carefully planned to come after a major episode aired, one in which Rex had a particularly heroic storyline. It was their way of letting Diesel's final on-screen moments shine, without the cloud of his passing hanging over them. In that episode, the character of Rex delivered one of his most emotionally charged performances. And knowing now that these scenes were filmed during Diesel's final days makes them even more poignant for fans, while the public was just learning the truth. The cast had been carrying it for months. In interviews after the announcement, John Reardon admitted how difficult it had been to film scenes knowing Diesel was gone. He spoke about the surreal feeling of doing press tours and being asked about future Rex moments, all while keeping a straight face. Some cast members revealed that even watching episodes during that period felt strange, because they knew which scenes were Diesel's and which ones featured a stand-in. It was a constant reminder of the loss they couldn't yet share. The official statement also addressed Diesel's passing directly, revealing that he had been battling a sudden and severe health condition that progressed faster than anyone expected. His trainer had noticed subtle changes in his energy and movement, but by the time tests confirmed the diagnosis, it was clear that his time was limited. The show's producers, trainer, and lead cast worked together to ensure his last weeks were comfortable and filled with love. He filmed as much as he could without pushing himself, and when it was time to step away, it happened quietly and peacefully. One of the most touching details revealed in the announcement was that Diesel's final day wasn't on a busy set. It was at home, in the backyard he loved, with his trainer by his side. The post described how he lay in the grass, enjoying the sunshine, and how it felt like he simply drifted away, as calm and dignified as he had always been on screen. This image struck a chord with fans, many of whom said they wept, not just because he was gone, but because he was given the peaceful farewell every pet deserves. Media outlets quickly picked up the story, but most reported it with the same respectful tone the announcement had set. There was no sensationalism, no invasive digging, just tributes and retrospectives celebrating Diesel's life and career. Television critics reflected on how rare it was for an animal actor to become such an integral part of a show's identity, while co-stars shared behind-the-scenes stories that showed just how much Diesel had meant to them as both a colleague and a friend. The official reveal wasn't just a piece of news, it was a global moment of shared grief and appreciation. Fans from all over the world posted photos, fan art, and video compilations of Diesel's best moments. Hashtags dedicated to him began trending, and people who had never even seen Hudson Rex learned his name. It was a testament to just how far his reach had extended beyond the borders of the show itself. But alongside the sadness, there was also a sense of closure. For months, the speculation had left a hole in the fandom, an unanswered question that hung in the air. Finally having the truth, hearing it directly from the people who loved Diesel most, allowed fans to grieve openly. And while the loss was painful, the way the truth was revealed made it clear that Diesel was more than just a character. He was family, both to the people who worked with him and to the millions who welcomed him into their homes every week. The decision to keep Diesel's passing a secret for 6 months wasn't made lightly. In fact, it was one of the most emotionally complicated choices the Hudson and Rex team had ever faced. On the surface, it might have seemed like a calculated PR move, but behind the scenes, the reasoning was far more personal and layered. For those who worked alongside Diesel every day, the thought of announcing his death immediately after it happened felt unbearable. His trainer, who had been by his side through every scene and every rehearsal since his very first day on set, was grieving deeply. The producers knew that thrusting her and the rest of the crew into a wave of public attention during that raw period would be both cruel and overwhelming. Privacy in those early weeks wasn't just a preference. It was a necessity. There was also the matter of timing with the show's production schedule. Season 8 was in full swing when Diesel passed, and several key episodes featuring Rex had already been filmed. The creative team was determined to let those episodes air without the shadow of his death hanging over them. They wanted viewers to experience Diesel's final moments as Rex purely for the joy and excitement they brought, not as a bittersweet reminder that he was gone. Releasing the news earlier might have shifted the focus entirely, turning every scene into a sad farewell instead of letting the character remain vibrant and alive on screen for just a little longer from a contractual perspective. There were also considerations with the network. Major announcements about core cast changes, and Diesel was very much a core cast member, had to be handled in coordination with scheduling, press events, and marketing campaigns. The network wanted to make sure the tribute to Diesel was done in the most respectful, impactful way possible, rather than in a rushed statement that would be lost in the fast-moving cycle of entertainment news. Waiting allowed them to craft a message that truly honored his legacy. Then there was the emotional toll on the cast. John Reardon, Mako Nguyen, Kevin Hanchard, and Justin Kelly had all worked with Diesel for years, forming bonds that went far beyond professional relationships. In interviews after the reveal, several cast members admitted that those 6 months were some of the hardest of their careers. They had to step into interviews, red carpet events, and fan interactions with smiles on their faces, knowing full well they were carrying a secret that would break the hearts of everyone listening. Some days it felt like a heavy weight pressing on their chests, but they also understood why the delay mattered. The show needed time to prepare fans for life without Rex, and the people behind Rex needed time to prepare themselves. The production team also knew that when the news finally broke, it wouldn't just be a quick headline. Diesel had millions of fans worldwide, and the story would ripple far beyond the Hudson and Rex community. That meant preparing tribute footage, behind-the-scenes compilations, and special messaging for international press. They wanted every piece of content to feel thoughtful, not thrown together in a rush of grief. During those 6 months, editors quietly began assembling highlight reels of Diesel's greatest moments on the show, knowing that when the time came, fans would want and need to see him celebrated properly. Perhaps the most delicate reason for the delay, though, was protecting the new canine actor stepping into Rex's role for certain scenes. Bringing in a stand-in dog while the truth about Diesel was still unknown was a risky move. If the public realized too soon that the dog in certain episodes wasn't Diesel, it would have sparked an avalanche of questions the team wasn't ready to answer. By keeping the secret, they allowed the transition to happen smoothly, letting audiences stay immersed in the story instead of focusing on the change. Still, this secrecy wasn't without its challenges. Rumors began swirling online, ranging from theories that Diesel had retired to wild speculation about on-set conflicts. The cast and crew had to quietly navigate these conversations without confirming or denying anything outright. It was a balancing act, acknowledging fan concern without revealing too much. In a way, this period became its own chapter in the Hudson and Rex story, a silent, behind-the-scenes journey that only those closest to Diesel fully understood. When the truth finally came out, many fans admitted they understood why it had been kept quiet. The months of silence weren't about deception, they were about compassion. They gave Diesel's trainer the space to say her private goodbye. They gave the cast time to adjust to a future without him. And they gave the audience the gift of seeing Rex exactly as they always had right up until the very end. The 6-month secret wasn't a way of hiding the truth. It was a way of protecting the memory of the dog who had given everything he had to the role, right until his last day.